This Rev 3 Games preview is brought to you by GameFly. Very happy to be joined by Albert Penello, the Director of Product Planning over at Microsoft, obviously working on the Xbox One. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So you've really worked on the hardware. What is kind of the signature element of what the Xbox One is that really distinguishes it? And I'm not talking about sort of the services and everything, but what's inside that box that says this is a big leap forward from what the Xbox 360 was?
So I think there was really two things we were trying to do in the early days. The first is, obviously, we wanted to make an awesome next generation box. Like, make sure we had killer graphics, killer performance, state of the art, so much more powerful than 360 that it was obvious it was time to upgrade. The other thing I think we really wanted to do was be a more modern game console insofar as having this instant switching experience. If you think about, the joke I always make internally is that video games used to be the most instant experience you had. You took a cartridge, you plugged it in, you turned it on, the game was going. And over the years, as software has gotten more complicated, as services have gotten more complicated, that experience has taken longer and longer. So one of the fundamental things we wanted to do with Xbox One was make it more instant. Make it faster, multiple things running at the same time, switching between games faster, having other things running at the same time and switching faster. So what I think is really going to set us apart, particularly from other platforms and from the last generations, is moving from game to game, from experience to experience, having multiple things running. It's going to feel a lot different than any other game console since the old days when it was super fast.
With that in mind, load screens. I mean, that's probably the most clear instance of where you can see hardware being challenged. I mean, is that going to be part of our future, or have you designed something that doesn't allow for that?
So there's a couple different things we're doing there. The first thing is all the games are loaded to the hard drive. So obviously there'll be this first experience where you have to install the game, but I think everybody knows that loading off of a hard drive is much faster than streaming off the disk. So that's one thing that we're doing. The second thing is we've got technology in Xbox One that allows the game to be played before the entire game is downloaded. So we've worked a lot with developers, with our technical team, to allow smaller chunks to be loaded before the game start, or before it's fully installed, so you can start playing faster. The third thing is, like I said, we've got this operating system that allows for more than one thing to happen. So before, if a game had to install or you had to wait for it to load, you were just sitting there going and get a cup of coffee. Now I can switch over to Netflix, I can switch over to a party chat, I can switch over to a TV station and watch TV, I can snap it to the side while the game's loading. So my ability to do more things while that's happening on the system is dramatically different than what you've had before.
So after you're done with that initial install to the hard drive, I mean, are we still looking at a world where we are going to have load screens? One thing I'm thinking is, every time a console or piece of technology is introduced, it sounds great, but every developer seems to find a way to push it to the extreme that you're not getting necessarily all the benefits that people expected.
I think it's going to depend on the game. I'm sure there will still be loading screens when you have these massive worlds and you're loading a lot of data, you're changing things out. But it's really up to the developer. I think if you look at games like Grand Theft Auto that have these huge open worlds, you very rarely encounter hiccups or loading screens. I think developers are getting more sophisticated. The technology is more sophisticated. We're putting things in the hardware to make it easier. So I would like to see it, if not go away, certainly be significantly reduced.
So what's inside the box? I mean, we know what the RAM is. It is, at least it sounds on paper, I don't understand this technology completely, but that it is not as powerful as what the PlayStation 4 is. What was the decision to go with sort of, I guess, an older type of RAM? Does that actually put you at a deficit? And then how, I keep on hearing that the cloud can sort of offset what those differences are, but the cloud, by its very name, sounds kind of ephemeral. If you wouldn't mind elaborating there.
Yeah, sure, that's a great question. I was famously chastised for saying in an interview once that comparing hardware specs was meaningless. And the point with that is the people that are speculating on this are not our hardware engineers, and we're not Sony's hardware engineers. They're doing things in their hardware to make it the best that they can. We're doing things in our hardware to make it the best that we can. I don't believe that the difference between these two platforms is significant as comparing individual components. I'm a big car fan. How is it that a 300 or 400 horsepower Porsche can be faster than a 700 horsepower Corvette? It's balance. There's different things you put in the system to make the performance the same, but you make different trade-offs. When it comes to RAM, they've made one decision on RAM, we've made another. We have ESRAM, which is very fast. It allows the developers to have a small cache very quickly. We have a very balanced architecture. We've done a lot of custom things in the silicon to reduce the number of bottlenecks, so every component that we have is running at peak performance. When I look at these games, I don't see a difference. And I know there's a lot of people that want to compare those things on paper and say that these individual components, but to me it comes down to the games, it comes down to the experiences, and I look at games like Rise, I look at Forza, I don't see anything better on a competing platform than what I'm seeing there.
So with the Kinect, Mike, the Xbox One is a more expensive console. A lot of people are attributing that to the inclusion in every purchase of the Kinect. I actually have to say, I agree with the idea, because I think it opens up opportunities for developers, but at the same time, you're creating a challenge in the marketplace. I mean, what are you doing with the Kinect? How are you trying to message to the consumer out there that that really is an essential, especially because now you don't have to use it with the Xbox One?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think if one thing history has shown with game consoles, when you put it in the box, you get adoption. When we put an Ethernet cable in the back of the original Xbox, you're saying we're online, we want developers to support it. When we put a hard drive in every box on the original Xbox, developers take advantage of it. When we launched Kinect, it launched 5 years into the platform. We saw a lot of potential for it, but when you don't ship it with every console, developers have to ask these questions to themselves. Is it worth the development effort? Should I support it? Which one of my customers will have it? Look, I just got back from Gamescom. I showed 300 journalists behind closed doors some of the cool stuff that you can do with Kinect. The facial recognition, the precision, the ability to not have to worry about what controller you're holding or which side of the screen you're on. The ability to have multiple users logged in at one time. You're holding a controller, you press the home button. Kinect knows it's you, it knows what controller you're holding, it goes to your home screen. I say Xbox go to Rise, it loads up my save game and my profile. You say Xbox go to Titanfall, it loads up your profile and your save game. The ability for us to do new and interesting things when we bundle Kinect with every console, we get one chance to do that, and that's at launch. Our job, we got to prove it to the gamers. We got to prove that it's worth it.
And I think you kind of hit on it right there, when you're at Gamescom, and I've seen all of these happen with Kinect as well, but it was behind closed doors. And how are you guys trying to reach that audience? Because I have to say, I see some cool things with the Kinect, but the people I talk to, the audience that I seem to be interacting with, really seems to be kind of flummoxed as to what is so essential about that hardware. And I would have to say, why are you guys kind of pulling back on what all that can do when you're not going directly to the consumer?
So the irony of it for me is, I don't think we are. The thing that I showed behind closed doors, the new Evolution demo where you get to see what Kinect sees, we actually have that out on the web. We published that back at E3. It's been out there for people to see, and it always amazes me when someone comes behind closed doors that's a fan of our platform or a detractor of our platform and goes, why aren't you showing this? I'm like, dude, this has been out for like 3 months. So, part of it, I have to ask the customer, are you actually looking at what we've published? Are you actually evaluating it? Or are you just like going, no, I just don't believe it just can't work? Every chance we get, we're showing it to people. We're showing the magic of what it does, either behind closed doors or on the floor. We had that new Evolution demo on the floor at Gamescom. We saw thousands of people came up and watched it and were blown away. It's out there. What we're doing is out there. People either don't believe it, in which case the only way to do that is to actually come to PAX, check it out for yourself, or listen. Go investigate, open your mind, see what we're doing, see if it's something you think is going to be cool or not. The information's out there.
So obviously, I think there were some messaging problems at the beginning with the announcement of the Xbox One. How are you guys kind of handling? Because I think you guys are genuine in what you like, in your enthusiasm and your interest in what the box is doing, but it doesn't seem to be translating as maybe it had with the Xbox 360. I mean, if you wouldn't mind, on your end of things, was that a surprise? Was it something you anticipated? And how are you trying to just reconnect with that consumer base so they can see things the way you guys are trying to express it?
No, that's a really great point. And if I have to go back and wish that I could rewind time and redo one thing, that would be the one thing. I think with time, people have understood what we were trying to do, and in fact, I'm sure you've seen it with the fans. They were saying, God, I wish some of this stuff would come back. And so I think the problem was people they got in their mind that what we were trying to do was somehow evil or anti-customer, when in fact, we were looking at what Steam does, we were looking at what iOS is doing, we were looking where the customers are going and saying, I think we can actually give you a better all-digital experience. We're going to move to this world. Nobody debates there's going to be a world, whether it's this gen or next gen, that the discs are going to go away. It's gone away in just about every medium. I think if anything, maybe we thought it was going to happen sooner than the customer thought it was going to happen. We took a hard stance on it. I think some customers were like, yeah, I'm in. And I think some customers were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, what about my situation? What about this situation? So was I surprised that people had a reaction to it? No. I mean, we knew it was going to be a controversial decision. Was I surprised how negative the reaction was going to be? Yes. And I think, look, there's a certain point where you have to look at yourself and you go, look, we got to change. I mean, the customers have spoken. We were surprised at how vocal it was. We were surprised at the reaction, the assumptions that people had about what we're trying to do. So we said, all right, we did the famous 180 that everybody likes to call us on. And we said, hey, you know what? We got to listen to the customers. And I hope that at some point in the future, some of those cool features, some of that family sharing, that household sharing stuff, the games are always with you. We want to bring that stuff back. But hey, you know, we had to stop the program. We put a pause on that. We started again and went back to the model that customers asked for.
One of the most interesting things that came from Nintendo this week was that the Wind Waker HD is going to be available as a download about 2.5 weeks ahead of when the retail is available. Is this something, I'm not going to get you to commit if you are going to do it, but are the systems in place where, say, Halo 5 could be available to the customer ahead of it, you know, being actually put onto store shelves as a physical disc?
That's going to be the most fun part of watching this industry evolve over the next couple of years, is the experimentation that the platform holders and the publishers are going to do in this. We have the mechanisms in place to enable those types of things. We've committed to day and date on our releases. Certainly you could envision midnight launches, pre-downloading, early, things like that. You know, we put the hooks in place. We're going to experiment. Publishers are going to experiment. We'll figure out what the customers want to do.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. I realize the next few months are going to be a little bit busy for you, so best of luck.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was great.
Enjoying our preview coverage and you want to support Red 3 Games? You do. Then why not check out GameFly? GameFly is the largest online video game rental service and offers you a choice from over 8,000 new and classic titles across all consoles and handhelds. Plans just start at $15.95 a month, and members can rent 1 to 4 games at a time and keep them for as long as they like. Once you're done playing, just send it back and GameFly will send you the next available game on your list. You can support Red 3 Games and get a free 15-day trial when you sign up at gamefly.com/Red3Games.